Hello, everyone. My name is Corinne, and welcome back to Homeschool and Chill, the YouTube channel that seeks to alleviate your stress and anxiety about homeschooling. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? Make sure that you subscribe and click the bell so that you can instantly be notified of my latest homeschool information, tricks, and tips. Okay, so today's topic is deschooling. For most of you who may be brand new to this idea of homeschooling, you may be kind of confused about what deschooling is. So I'll start with that, with the definition of deschooling. Deschooling is pretty much the mindset of kind of detaching your child from the routine of a traditional classroom setting. Homeschooling is very much so different from a traditional classroom setting where there are numerous other students. There's a certain way that classrooms are managed, there's a certain way that a school overall is managed, and there are different routines and schedules and kind of indoctrination that's involved that is not present in a homeschool setting. And so in order to get your child prepared for this transition that they're going to be making, it's very important to start off your homeschool journey with deschooling. There have been numerous homeschool parents who say that they wish that they started their homeschool journey off with deschooling, or they realized after starting homeschooling that they needed to take a step back to deschool. And that was the case with my family, especially because my girls have never gone to a traditional school before. I didn't think that deschooling was necessary, but I actually needed to deschool myself. So I needed to take a step back from our routine homeschooling when I first started and get back to just deschooling. So deschooling is just a period of time where you're not really focused so much on academics and you're focused more on just making this an easy transition. Like I mentioned before, a traditional classroom setting is very, very different from a homeschool setting. And so you do have to prepare yourself and you have to prepare your child for the changes that are to come. And so your children will have to adjust to the fact that their social environment may be different and that you are going to have to be actively trying to find ways to get your child out and socializing with others. Even though homeschool is not what people make it out to be, that children are just at home and they're not socialized and they don't have any friends, even though that's not true. But if you do not properly find opportunities for your children to get out and socialize, that can possibly happen. But while the transition is taking place, your child may be having issues with not being able to see all of their friends that they had at school, and so you'd have to kind of help them with that adjustment. There's also issues where children they're just really trying to find themselves in this whole homeschool thing, especially if they didn't want to be homeschooled in the first place, but you realize that this was an important decision for your family. So you might face children who are not wanting to do the schooling type thing at home. They're not okay with the idea that their home space is kind of being invaded with, school, because they're used to going to a completely separate location to learn. And so they might be resistant to that, but yet at the same time, when you are trying to teach, every opportunity that they get, they might be comparing your way of teaching to what they've learned at school. Well, that's not the way that I learned it at school before. That's not the way that we do things at school. And so deschooling is really important to try to eliminate some power struggles or issues that you may face because your children are still very accustomed to just having a home life at home and then going to school and learning and things being done a specific way. Another reason why deschooling is very important is because children might not really know what to do with themselves when they first begin their homeschool journey, especially because homeschooling typically doesn't take up as many hours of your day than a traditional school setting does, because there are numerous children that teachers and administration have to manage throughout the day and be able to safely and responsibly and just really be able to organize these children in a very orderly way. It takes a lot of time with a lot of transitions, walking in lines and being able to take bathroom breaks in certain ways and keeping up with children and numbers and all these sort of things. So a lot of that takes up your day, and just children being at different learning styles or different points in their learning in one classroom, it takes up a significant amount of time during a school day. But that may not be the case at home because it's just you and your children that you're having to educate. When your children find that they have all this extra time, they may not know what to do with themselves. And that can lead to them easily becoming bored and not enjoying the fact that they're being homeschooled. So deschooling provides an opportunity for your children to really explore their interests, to really find out what it is that they would like to learn, what they want to do with themselves, so that there's not just so much dead space in your homeschool day, that your children will actually be able to enjoy this extra time because now they have more time to learn how to code, or they have more time to learn a new skill, or learn to dance, or do a craft, or different things that they were originally interested in, but there wasn't necessarily as much time for when they were in a traditional classroom setting. Another reason why deschooling is really important may actually have to do with the reason why you're homeschooling in the first place. If your family's reason for homeschooling has to do with the fact that your child had a really negative experience with a traditional school, like if they were being bullied or they were being mistreated by teachers, or if it just wasn't a very good educational experience, they didn't feel safe, they didn't make a lot of friends, they had a lot of anxiety, or the school wasn't able to educate your child the best way possible with their possible learning disabilities or learning styles or learning disorders or attention issues or whatever the case may be. Your child may have had a very negative experience with school. And so deschooling provides an opportunity for your child to actually heal from what they went through in a traditional classroom setting before trying to focus so much on academics. It's really just a time for your child to take a deep breath, relax, and realize that a lot of the things that they went through wasn't necessarily their fault. Or even if it was, even if you have a very challenging child, this is an opportunity for them to kind of redeem themselves, to really kind of separate the past from what's going to happen in the future and really focus on how they can improve themselves, how they can get closer to you, to really bond with you after everything that you've gone through with previous school years, and then step forward without all of that extra baggage from the past. We want to move forward. We're not going to worry about what your child got sent to the office for. We're not going to worry about what this teacher said. We're not going to worry about what those mean kids did. We're getting all of that out. It's allowing your child opportunity to really talk about those different things, to really grow and develop away from the toxicity that they might have been going through in their public school situation, and come into the academic portion of homeschooling completely renewed. And as I mentioned before, it's a really important bonding experience. I mean, most of the time when your children are away at school, you don't see them for maybe 8 hours of the day, or maybe even more depending on your schedule or what you have going on. And so now you're going to be spending a lot more time with each other. And that is a good thing, but it can also be a challenging thing. And so before you're really trying to focus on academics, deschooling is a really good time for you to bond and get used to being around each other a lot more than what you have been used to. And so it's a wonderful experience because it's a time where you can really get to know your children well, learn what they're interested in, learn what their concerns are, what their worries are, and you can address those sorts of things. And you can really formulate like a team, that this is a team effort, that you're working with your child to provide them the best education that they could possibly have. And it also allows you to kind of see each other's quirks and see what sort of things rub you the wrong way, what sort of things rub your child the wrong way, and kind of get all of that out and learn the best way to sort that out as a family before you kind of got like academics in the mix. You're really just trying to, enjoy each other, learn from one another, and grow together before you dive directly into academics. So another part of homeschooling that you really have to focus on when it comes to deschooling is really getting your children comfortable with the idea of homeschooling in the first place. Your child may be reluctant to homeschool simply because it's something new and they don't know what's to come, in which that's just a normal human response. We are a little bit fearful of things that we don't understand or we don't know very much about. So deschooling is a period of time to really get your children to understand what is going to come, and that you're in this with them and that you're learning along with them too. Another thing that's really important about deschooling is to kind of dispel some of their fears that they may have of homeschooling. People who don't really know a lot about homeschooling really question the validity of homeschooling. If I go through my whole entire education homeschooling, am I going to be able to get accepted into a good college? Am I going to be able to get a good job? Am I really going to get a high school diploma? Like, all of those things can be some serious concerns for your older children when you decide that you want to homeschool them. Am I going to be able to participate in activities? I was really enjoying basketball, so what am I going to do now that I'm going to be homeschooled? Am I going to give basketball up? So, all those different things are important to your children, and you want to address all of their concerns about homeschooling first, so that when it is time to get to academics, you don't really have as much resistance from your children. They're comfortable, they're calm, they trust you, they trust the process, and they're working along with you to be educated. And those aren't things they have to be so concerned about, or maybe not even want to be involved in being homeschooled, like just kind of give up because they feel like it's hopeless. My parents have taken me out of school, and now I don't know what's going to happen for my future. So deschooling is a really good time to spend, working on getting all the answers that your children need to feel comfortable with what's to come. So now that I've explained to you what deschooling is and why it's necessary to deschool, you're probably sitting here wondering, what exactly do I do while we're deschooling? Like, you're talking good talk, but is my child just going to sit at home all day? Before I get into that, most people recommend to deschool your children for 1 month for each year that your child was in a traditional classroom setting. So if your child was in traditional school for 1 year, then you need to do 1 month of deschooling to really get them out of the routine that they were accustomed to. If your child was in school for 5 years, then you need 5 months of deschooling. Now, as far as that time span, I've seen this in a lot of places that said, 1 month for each year that your child has been in school. But I have seen some parents that said, we did take a few months to deschool, but we didn't need to quite, do that month to year ratio that people have recommended. And I think that's intimidating for a lot of parents who might have a 10th grader that they're trying to deschool, and they're like, so that means I have to spend 10 months of deschooling before my child gets into any academics. But I would say to kind of have a goal in mind and to work with your children, and your child, if they're adjusted or if they're comfortable and all that, and you kind of see as you're going along when would be a good time to go ahead and end your deschooling process. But as far as deschooling, what do you do? Even though you may not be focused on a curriculum and worksheets and all these sort of things, you can still do educational things. I'm not saying that you're going to take, 5 months or so to just do nothing with your children, just let them watch TV and eat all the snacks in your house. I'm absolutely not saying that. So you're just trying to find more fun ways for your children to learn, more organic, natural, child-led learning, so that when academics are more involved, you know which direction to take your children. So while you are deschooling, some awesome things for you to be doing is to get out and explore with your children. Now, I know at the time that I'm making this video, COVID-19 is among us, and how much we're able to get out and socialize and do things outside of the house is still limited in most places. But for the most part, for deschooling, it will be really awesome to really explore art museums, history museums, science museums, just go to concerts, go to plays, just go anywhere where your children can just explore and they can learn in a very fun and interesting way. So hopefully this whole thing will be over sometime soon and you'll be able to get out with your children while you're deschooling. But if not, just kind of forget everything that I just said about getting out while you're deschooling. Even though you may not be able to get out and go to public places quite as much while you're deschooling, you can get out of the house. And so a really awesome thing about deschooling is just spending some time just getting out in nature with your children. They've spent quite a bit of time being accustomed to being inside of a building for numerous hours of a day, sitting in a seat for numerous hours of the day. So really let them just enjoy being able to be outside. Just get them out to get fresh air. Go for walks or different things in your neighborhood instead of just being cooped up in the house, to give them a different sense of exploring the world around them, that they don't have to be indoors in four walls for numerous hours of the day. So really, getting outside is good for your mental health. For some reason, your brain responds to the color green in a very positive way. And so being outside among nature, trees and grass and plants and those things are good for you. Getting fresh air is good for you. Getting some vitamin D from the sunlight is good for you. So all those things are very beneficial. Just getting your children out and making sure that they are well within by being without. Go for walks and things like that, because being more physical is really important too, because your children spend so much time sitting in a desk in a traditional classroom setting. While you're deschooling, it is an amazing opportunity for your children to get more physically active instead of living so much of a sedentary lifestyle. And you might actually realize that your children do have an interest in the area of physical fitness and things like that. So like I said, deschooling is really a time for you to get to know your children and what they're interested in. And so how will your children or you ever know that they're interested in the great outdoors or in physical fitness and all those type of activities if they never really get the chance to do it very much? So get outside, get some exercise, go walking, play some basketball, play some games, do different things like that to get the heart going and just really enjoying life. Like, just play with your kids. That's one way to bond too. You can kill two birds with one stone, or two or three birds with one stone, by getting outside, being active, bonding with your children by playing with them, doing all those things that you wouldn't necessarily been able to do while they were in school. So as I said before, your children aren't just going to spend this deschooling process just learning absolutely nothing. And so homeschooling in itself is really a time for you to really learn that there's more than one way to learn. You don't have to just sit in the desk and listen to somebody talk at you all day and then get handed a piece of paper and then answer the piece of paper and then get a grade based on how much you remember from how you've been taught to. So, even though schools do have projects and reports and group activities to do, still you're somewhat confined to one room most of the time. And the majority of the time you are just listening to a teacher talk. And so there's not a very much way of, diversifying the education for every student based on their learning style in a classroom. There's awesome teachers who find ways to try to do it, but you have even more opportunity to do that as a homeschool parent. So while you are deschooling, you're going to find some new and interesting ways for your children to learn that they may not necessarily get to do in a traditional classroom setting. What am I talking about? I'm talking about playing games that may be educational, allowing your children to watch educational television, to watch documentaries, to go on the internet and research things that they're interested in. And that's one thing, even though I'm no longer in the deschooling aspect of our homeschool life, we do spontaneous learning all the time. Homeschooling is really about just making every opportunity count. That learning is your lifestyle. It's not that you go to school and you learn from this time to this time and then you come home and just do homework and then I don't have to learn any other time. It's really adopting the idea of seeking knowledge and information at every chance that you get. So we have, a certain time of the day that we'll do lessons, things that have already been decided that we're going to try to learn. But I am very adamant about, if my girls ask a question, I'm like, well, let's go research it. Let's go look it up. Let's go Google it. Let's go watch a YouTube video. And so those are things that you can start establishing with your children, that if you want to know something, the information is out there. We just have to go and get it. So we'll find a way to get it, whether we're going to the library or watching a documentary, watching a YouTube video, or whatever the case may be. These are ways that you can learn, and it doesn't involve just having to sit there and listen to someone talk to you and you having to take notes on what they said. Lastly, I really believe that deschooling is the perfect time to really get your children and yourself introduced to the idea that learning is more about holistic wellness. It's about your entire person instead of just academics. It's not just about memorizing information that you can regurgitate. It's really about having a thirst for knowledge, a thirst for truth, really getting to know who you are and who you want to become. It's really a time where it's not just focused on reading, writing, and arithmetic, the things that we normally associate with school, but really trying to figure out who you are and what it takes to cultivate your own gifts, talents, and skills to become the person that you want to be one day. and to really be focused on, your wellness, your mental and emotional wellness too, not just your academic side. So really take that time to fully get to know yourself and for your children to really get to know themselves and know each other so that you can move forward with your homeschool journey in the most holistically perfect way possible. I mean, I don't really like to use the word perfect, but where you're really focused on educating the whole person that is your child and not just the academic side. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope that it inspires you to move forward confidently with deschooling as you begin your homeschool journey. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And most of all, love yourselves. Bye, loves.